One more thing. Lies, Anthony Davis says, as reports come out that he's going to need surgery and be out several months. Then conflicting reports say he could come back for the Mavericks. What do we make of all this? We'll never know peace.
I'm not a doctor, so.
That's it. It's me versus the machine.
I don't know.
Satnam change.
Nice penetrating thrust to the middle.
Hot man, the hot player.
Wait. One more thing.
Fired up.
You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Mavs for over 10 years. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. It's a one more thing, a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. You missed the episode with me and Slightly breaking down the game against the Nets. You missed the episode with Isaac breaking down some draft prospects. Go listen to that one. But Anthony Davis tweets, reports come out, and he calls out the reports saying that they're lies. So we got to talk about it. We got to talk about Stein's report, Shams' report. What do we think about all this? I may bring up Rich Paul's comments the other day. Let's talk all about it. And let's start right here. When last we heard about Anthony Davis, he had ligament damage in his finger, in his left hand, and he was likely going to need surgery, but they were still trying to figure out what other options he had. And so then we were just kind of waiting on the report. Ligament damage to me signaled that he was going to need surgery. So I thought, all right, his time with the Mavericks, at least this season, is done, because surgery would mean he'd be out for months, and then months gets you to the point where you're like, well, there's only like 4 or 5 weeks left in the season. What's the point for him to come back at all? And so I thought we were done with Anthony Davis this season. But there's still an opening. There's still an opening because the minimum amount if he doesn't need surgery is about 6 weeks, which would mean he would come back with a month or two left in this 2 months left in the season or so, and that would open up the opportunity for him to continue to play for the Dallas Mavericks this season. There also are still all the talks about trades and if he could still be traded. Mark Stein has said that that likely shuts down a trade for Anthony Davis after this injury, but he didn't close the door, and the Mavericks haven't closed the door. And so we're all just sitting here waiting around. All right, what's going to happen with this Anthony Davis thing? What's going to transpire? What is going to be said? And so then Shams Charania reports this about an hour ago. Anthony Davis is likely to undergo surgery to repair ligament damage in his left hand and miss several months, sources tell ESPN. His Dallas season is essentially over, given the prognosis and the Mavs' direction, which makes sense. That's the logic I took from it. Then Shams reports, this is just a whole different thing. Fascinating development. The Mavericks are having renewed trade talks with multiple interested teams. Sources said if moved to a playoff contender, the return timeline could allow Davis to return during the postseason while establishing himself for the long term elsewhere. Let's hold that idea in one side of our brain for a second and just push it to the back a little bit. This first part, where Shams reports that he is likely to undergo surgery on his left hand, miss multiple months, and then that would basically end his season with the Dallas Mavericks. This is a report from Shams. This is the one that I was like, all right, well, here we go. That's our answer. That's what we got from Anthony Davis. That's what's going to happen. He's going to be out. Fine. Okay. I'm here for it. But then Anthony Davis tweets, y'all better stop listening to all these lies on these apps. And we've seen this happen before with players. Jimmy Butler called out Shams and called out reporters saying that they were lying. Then he gets traded to the Warriors. We've seen players call out lies from reporters before. I don't know that I always trust the player in this scenario. But it depends on which lies he's talking about. Which lies is Anthony Davis refuting? And he did reply to a Legion Hoops post, which is like an aggregator account. He replied to it and just said lies. The post was deleted before I could get a screenshot of it, but it basically said that he's gonna be out for months. So Anthony Davis is refuting this idea that he's gonna be out for months. So he may get surgery still. I think if he gets surgery, he's out for months, right? Even 8 weeks is months, man. Like the 6-week timeline is if you don't get surgery. I'm gonna just caveat all this by saying
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
But something is not adding up if you're saying lies. He's not going to be out for months, but he's still going to get surgery. So is he refuting that he's not going to get surgery? Because that's a different thing. If he's not going to get surgery, then that keeps us all open, and he could still come back to play for the Mavericks this season. Is that the best thing? I don't know. I don't think so. The Mavs need to get a better draft pick. The Mavs And just overall for Anthony Davis, I think he just need a bodily reset. Just get back to being healthy, because it's just been thing after thing after thing, rushing back. It started with the adductor when he was first traded to the Dallas Mavericks. Nico Harrison and Anthony Davis himself rushed him back. And then he got hurt again in the first game that he played for the Dallas Mavericks. Only played one half, the Houston half that we talk about all the time. And then it just snowballed. He hasn't played more than 5 straight games for the Dallas Mavericks. He keeps coming back, and then something else happens. And yes, some of them have been freak accidents. This thing with his hand was a freak accident. But I think he just needs a reset, get healthy, take the 8 months, spend some time. It's better for the Mavericks if he stays out anyway. It's better for his trade value if he stays out anyway. Why come back and risk a bigger injury again? What if he comes back and tears his ACL, his Achilles? Like what? God forbid one of those things happens to him, of course. But if it does, then all of a sudden you're just like, this thing got even worse than what it is right now. But the fact that it's this ligament injury, there's still a door open, and I think that's the takeaway from all this, is that the door is still open for Anthony Davis to come back this season for the Dallas Mavericks, to see the V word, to see the plan actually play out, and to see Anthony Davis and Kyrie play together is still on the table this season. Will we ever know peace? No, probably not.
I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more.
Oh, will we ever? I don't know, because Mark Stein has this report that says there's some optimism in Dallas that Anthony Davis could return at some point in March, even if he is forced to undergo surgery on his left hand. And I think that's the report that comes out afterwards that you go, okay, that's why Anthony Davis has the tweet about stop listening to the lies, the tweet about lies to the post about him being out for months, that he thinks he's not going to be out as long as some of these reports say. And that's where we are. Coming up, what about the trade part of it? The fascinating development Shams Charania talked about. What does that mean for the Mavericks? I'll tell you coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like being in the arena and seeing an NBA game, seeing Cooper Flagg go out and do his thing, seeing the players come in and seeing guys like Victor Wembanyama, seeing Nikola Jokic, seeing Kevin Durant come in and do their thing. That's where Game Time comes in. The app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. You don't have to go and like fumble around and try and find the different things. You don't have to go find scalpers. You don't have to do all that kind of stuff. Browsing the Game Time app is straightforward, intuitive, and finding tickets as easy as just a few taps here and there. See the view from your seat before buying. It makes choosing tickets super easy, especially if you're going to an arena you've never been to. You got to be able to see where you're going to sit and all that. Prices include fees up front, so the total is clear from the very start, which is a must-have for me. I have to know what I'm going to be paying. I don't want to be surprised by like $40, $50 in fees at the end of it. You can also check out Zone Deals, so whether it's an NBA game or a live event, everything is right there in one place. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action with Game Time. Also brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor can actually feel like discovering a diamond in the rough, because there's so many different things, so many different doctors you want to try to find. And when you try to go through insurance, I've tried this before, you look up their search engine and it's just like a bunch of different faceless like doctors with just a name and a number, and the numbers don't always work. Like they're just not updated all the time. ZocDoc can help you out with that. It's a free app and website that helps you find and book high quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone you truly connect with. You got to love that you can find specialty, or you can search by specialties or symptoms to quickly find the right fit. Being able to choose in-person or video visits as well makes scheduling way easier. They have real-time availability, means you can book instantly, so you don't have to play phone tag, which is great. It's 2026. We should be able to just hit a time and schedule that time. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor that you love today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Answer one more thing, a bonus episode of Locked On Mavs. Bonus episode of the bonus episode, because things keep happening to the Dallas Mavericks, and we'll keep covering them and talking about them. So we talked about the report that Anthony Davis says lies about him being out for months, about him maybe having surgery. I'm going to assume that the months one, that his season is over, is the one that he's saying lies to, not the surgery one. Because the surgery one, I don't know. It feels like if Shams had that report that he's going to need surgery, that one's pretty ironclad. So then the other Shams report comes out. Fascinating development. The Mavericks are having renewed Davis trade talks with multiple interested teams, sources said. If moved to a playoff contender, the return timeline could allow Davis to return during the postseason while establishing himself for the long term elsewhere. All right, now we're starting to hit the calendar where you go, all right, let's pull out a calendar. Let's start looking through it. What we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-ish weeks left in the NBA season. So if there's 13 weeks left in the season, he's out for 8 games. There's 5 weeks left. So a contender could theoretically trade for Anthony Davis and say, all right, we get a month, about 5 weeks to run with Anthony Davis when he comes back healthy from this hand injury, that he could run with our team and figure out how to play. If I'm a playoff team, I think that approach makes no sense. Unless you're a team that's kind of on the fringes. One reason why I thought the Hawks could make some sense is because the Hawks are like, all right, we're 20-21 right now. We're in the play-in. We want to just vault ourselves into the top 6 in the East. We want to take ourselves from fringe playoff team to actual playoff team. And like, let's vault ourselves into that camp. Let's give ourselves a real chance when we don't have a real chance right now. The Bulls, another one. We're like, we've just been in mediocrity. There's no real way for us to get up. We don't get these chances all the time to get a player as good as Anthony Davis for the low price that Anthony Davis is going to go for, because he is going to go for a low price now. The Raptors didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but you could kind of squint and see it. And so if you're a playoff team, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But if you're the Mavericks and a team does buy this and the team does decide, hey, we're going to trade for Anthony Davis, I think you got to go for it. I don't think that there's going to be this. I don't think Anthony Davis is going to do enough or do much that's going to recoup his value to the point where you're like, man, we didn't do this. If we had only waited, maybe we could have gotten 2 first-round picks out of it. Maybe we could have gotten a young player and a first-round pick out of it. I don't think you're getting to that point anymore. Look at what happened with Trae Young. Look at what's happening with Ja Morant. And those guys are younger. Trae Young does not have the injury history of Anthony Davis. He's missed games, but his is more of a on-the-court issue. Ja Morant is an off-the-court issue and injuries. Ja Morant has barely ever played 70 games in an NBA season. And the NBA is looking at these guys and they're course correcting on all these players that got all these max contracts just because they gave you a season or 2 seasons of like solid all-star level play. And the CBA forced all these teams to look at their guys and say, all right, well, this is our star player, so he gets 35% of the salary cap. And so now you have all these guys with these big contracts that aren't worth it on the court because they have these issues. Anthony Davis is the injury issue. Trae Young, the defense issue, and I don't know, all the players like to play with him. Ja Morant has the off-the-court issues and the staying on the court issues. Like there's these imperfect stars that have these issues that should have never gotten max contracts, but they get them because there was no other option for those teams. And they're like, all right, well, we've got to have a max player on the team. And so they get these deals. Or if you're an Anthony Davis, you go to the finals and you win a finals, and then the team goes, well, we've got to pay him now. We've got to pay him this money, even though I don't know that he'd be worth it because of the amount of games he plays. It's great when he plays the 76 games, the one season, but you don't want to be the one GM that falls for that and then trades their star player for it. And you don't want to be that. And so if I'm the Mavericks, I'm still agreeing with Isaac. You've got to just move on. I posted the other day that the Mavericks are $4 million under the second apron for next season. And if they don't move anybody, they still have to add their first round pick. That salary slot is going to be like $6 to $10 million. They haven't signed Ryan Nembhard for next season, haven't signed Brandon Williams for next season. So if they're going to do any of those things, then they've got to move somebody. Anthony Davis is the one that makes the most sense. You clear up all that money, you clear up all that space, you retain flexibility. And it's not just about, well, why is this guy trying to save money for Patrick Dumont? All it is just saving money for the owner. Why are you protecting the owner's money? It has nothing to do with that anymore. Yes, the owner pays more money, but it's more about flexibility for the roster. This new CBA has changed the rules where now it's more about, well, if we are in the second apron, all of a sudden you can't aggregate players in a trade. So you can only trade one player at a time. If you're in the second apron 2 years in a row, then you get a draft pick frozen. You get all these other penalties. Like there's just so many more penalties for a team in the second apron. And this team is not nearly good enough to be a team up there. The Cavs won 64 games and decided to be a second apron team and stay that way. The Celtics are a second apron team. They decided to stay that way. But then the Celtics pivoted off all their guys. The Celtics pivoted off Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and they made a bunch of moves, and now they're under the second apron. They're under the first apron now because they made all those moves. They prioritize flexibility over everything. That's where I am with this, is that if there is a team, if it still happens, go for it. You've got to make a move. You've got to make a trade and figure it out and just get out from under this and start over, because I don't think you're recouping enough of his value later. If he plays 50 games next season, a team's going to go, you know what, actually, let's go for it. There we go. That's my thoughts on it. Isaac and I will break it down a little bit more later today. We'll probably talk about Rich Paul's comments when he talked about trade speculation and all that stuff and how the Mavs played themselves. And we'll talk about that a little bit later today. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked on Mavs.
Peace out.